So again, we are on the last example for section 12.1. So we're going to be getting into pie charts now. So it says, during one semester, Caradiano spent $10,920 for school expenses as shown in this table. Find all the missing percentages, then draw a circle graph using the budget information from the table. Now again, circle graphs and pie charts, they're kind of synonymous with each other, so don't let that confuse you. Label each sector with the budget item and the percent of that total for that item. So what do we do? Well, so first of all, we look and can see we have all these different categories that she spent money in, and these were all the amounts for the semester. So quite a bit of money. But as far as out of the total, how do we figure out what each of these values is? And you probably remember this, right? And we just did one similar to that using our relative frequency distributions. So if we take the value and divide by the total, that should give us the percent. So if we take 2730 and divide by 10,920, let's see what we get. 2730 divided by 10,920.25. That looks like a nice percentage to me. 25%. And so we got to do the same thing for all of these. So 2184 divided by 10,920.2. So that looks like 20%. And so 1092 over 1092.0, I'm going to guess that's 10%. 10%. Let's see what 1638 divided by 10,920. Ooh, 15. So 15% here, 15% here. 546 divided by 10,920, 5%. Now this is a really nice example. You can see we get nice percentages in here. This is not always the case, so just keep that in mind. Excuse me. Okay, so now that we have all these, and again, we should total these to make sure it equals 100%. But let's take it for granted that it does. So if we wanted to draw one of these by hand, how do we do it? Now I've already started to get the process down for us. And the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have the center identified. And then I like to identify the points north, south, east, and west. And so that is a nice part of this, is because now you can see that we have 25% here, we have 25% here, 25%, and 25%. So if any of your pieces of pie are that big, you can start off by drawing those. So we do have one that's 25%, and so our rent. So I like to start in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to say this is rent, and I'm going to label it with 25%. So that one's done. Now, all the other pieces are less than 25%. So how do we get a good approximation for those? And I mean, we could try to guess about where 20% is and 10% is, but I'd rather have something a little bit more concrete, and I hope you would too. And the way you can do this and get a pretty good approximation is to try to put some extra guidelines in each of your quarters. Now the question is how many guidelines do I want? How should I space this? You know, there's probably lots of questions you have, but let me just cut to the chase. If we use 4 dashes and try to equally space them, let's see what we get. 4 dashes. So I'm going to try to put one here, one there. Now, there's 3 dashes, so that doesn't work. So I'm going to have to space them a little bit closer together. So it's a really good idea to use a pencil on this. So let's try that. And I'll get rid of that one. Now that's better, but still not quite as good as I'd like it to be. So I'm going to try one more time, see if I can get this the way I want it. Let's make this one right about there. That's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So the big thing is I'm trying to get all these spaces to be the same size. Now, why did I use 4 dashes? Why didn't I use 5 dashes? 5 dashes would be a little better, wouldn't it? 5 goes into 25 evenly. Well, the problem with that is that you're not looking at the dashes as much as the spaces. Because if I have 4 dashes, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So each space is now 5%. And so that's what's going to make it easy for us. So now I can take care of a couple of pieces of pie. So if I wanted to put down food, I could. So I got 5, 10, 15, 20. So now I can just draw a line to the center. At least try to draw it to the center. And so now that would be food, and that would be 20%. Now, I do have a remaining 5% here, so I could take care of the savings. So the savings, I could just squeeze that in there and label that with 5%. And so now I got half of the pie filled in. And so I got to do the same thing with the other 2 pieces, the other 2 quarters. I want to chop those up using some guidelines. So again, try to get them as evenly spaced as possible. Again, if it's not perfect, that's okay. But again, you want to try to get those spaces the same size. You want it to look right, I hope. All right, so we've taken care of our rent and our food and our savings. So we still got clothing, which is 10%. So I'm going to go like so. And I'll put that in there. So there's 10%. And if I have a 15% one, that would finish off the rest of that quarter, which I do. I could use tuition and fees. So I'm going to abbreviate this because I don't have a lot of space. So T and F, 15%. All right, and then let me chop up this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, always use 4 dashes. 4 dashes give you 5 spaces. And so, what are the last pieces we need? Well, we need books and supplies, which is 10%. So I'm going to go like so. And we'll call it B and S for short. And last but not least is entertainment at 15%. So entertainment, and I'll abbreviate that too. Now, if you do this with a little bit of accuracy, you can get a pretty decent looking circle graph. Now, what about pieces of pie that are not multiples of 5? Well, that's a good question. But you still can use these 5% guidelines to help with that. So if I had 18%, well, food is 20, but if I had 18, well, 18 would be maybe somewhere in there. So I would draw my line, you know, down to the middle like that. That's really the best that you can do with these. It's going to be pretty close. It won't be perfect, but if you're drawing them by hand, this is really the best way to do it, in my opinion. So hopefully that makes sense to you, but if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Good luck, and we'll see you in section 12.2 for the next videos. Take care.